Missed an episode of your favorite podcast? Choose from over a decade of content in our archives, not just the latest episode. All free at GCNlive.com.
This is your call to action. Get prepared, America. Economy, survival, energy, disasters. This is USAPrepares.com. Informative radio, educational radio. Interact now by emailing instructor@USAPrepares.com or text at 434-390-7953. Class, please take your seats. Now, your instructor, Vincent Finelli.
Everyone all set? Cocked? Locked? Here we go. Your dial set correctly to USA Prepares. Thank you for being in class with us today. I'm just multitasking, getting all the screens up. Jason's engineering the broadcast in Minnesota. I'm Vincent Finelli. Telephone listen line is 712-770-9418. 712-770-9418. Call-in number 866-582-9933. 866-582-9933. Very serious broadcast today with Dr. Richard Alan Miller. Welcome, Rick.
I'll wind up. Listen, man, I just did a complete 3 websites for you that I'm going to send you right now that gives you the definition of what's going on and my opinions. Then there's a second one, gives you a timetable of what actually happened, both in the truths and the lies. And then the third one is our government's postings of what they know, what they don't know, and why you want to look at that, even though you don't believe things. It's important. You wanted to talk about the coronavirus? Let's do that.
All right. Rick, let me start with this. I received a screenshot from a member of our family, one of our boys. And he has a friend, and his friend's wife is in the medical profession. And I'm going to read this. I'm not going to use his name or her name. She's in the medical profession. So this is about
Hey, Vincent, you need to give me 2 squigs on volume, please.
Yes, 1, 2. Okay, 2 squigs on volume.
Thank you.
Okay, it says she got home from Nashville after going through O'Hare and the coronavirus scare. Took 9 hours to get home. Now, we're talking about from the East Coast to Missouri. Well, after she's home, the next day she gets an email from the place at Nashville where she was at for classes. One of the big executives that ran the show dropped dead the day after she left with flu-like symptoms. Everyone that was there for the classes was put on a round of Tamiflu, and half are positive for the flu with 2 hospitalized. So that's what we got, okay? So that is from the husband of the lady who went for medical training in Nashville.
Here's the deal, Vin. The problem is everybody's got a flu or a cold of some kind because of seasonal changes, and what's basically happening is this virus is real. It was manufactured. We have the patent number. We know who owns the patent. We don't know if he's the one responsible, Bill Gates, but we know who owns it. We know where it first occurred, and the fact that that facility did a practice lockdown 1 week before this first thing. I'm going to be sending you a timetable of what happened in each day so that everybody gets a bigger view of what actually is going on. And I'm going to say this before we do anything else. First, this is a serious problem, but the problem is going to be with your own mind and taking responsibility for the thoughts you choose to entertain. Now, once you've got that picture, realize that just because you have a sniffle does not mean you're at risk. In fact, the whole thing is like a 9/11. We know it's happening. We know it's not true, but what if kind of thing? And that's what they're doing with us. And it's true. It was done with intent. We can prove that now. Now, who is responsible? Well, in the Lies and Truths part, the second link I'm going to send you, it does talk about the Wuhan province and their management compared to the central government in China and their play on it. And that's very enlightening. Then I have a number of different other little things going on. Like I have friends over there in Thailand that actually were flying around, and what they saw in different airports. That's really weird, and you can read some of that. So with all of that said, I think the first thing we want to do, like the one that my girlfriend asked this morning, is where did the coronavirus name come from? Why is it called coronavirus? Why isn't it SARS or avian bird flu? You know, which we have had scares like this every year. And each year they've tried to escalate, and some years they're actually quite serious, and then it would blow over. Now, coronaviruses are a group of viruses that actually cause diseases in mammals, including humans, birds, and the virus causes respiratory infection, which are typically mild and in very rare cases can be lethal. In cows and pigs, they may cause diarrhea, while in chickens it can cause an upper respiratory disease. There are no vaccines. Okay, there's where the money part comes in. There are no vaccines or antiviral drugs that are approved for prevention of treatment yet. Now, the coronavirus actually they're a group of viruses that causes these kinds of diseases. It is they're common colds, but in rare forms like SARS and MERS, they can be lethal. This particular one that's out right now was done with intent. I've posted the patent number. There it is. And the laboratory in China where it escaped, and the fact that they ran a so-called annual drill 1 week before the spread of this. Isn't that interesting? And, you know, the truth, we're never really, ever going to know what actually really happened. It doesn't work like that. And the problem is you can't trust any of the media now, because most of it is to scare you into behaving like cows, herding you up into groups of categories. And I wanted to remind everybody of something Joseph Campbell once said. He said, quote, "When you see the kingdom of the Father on earth, the apocalypse has already occurred. It is perpetual in its potential." Am I concerned about this virus? Yes and no. I'm far more concerned, for example, about the New Madrid fault line and the fact that there are 21 Daiichi-like GE reactors all leaking right now on that fault line, and it takes 1 full year to power one of those down. If we have a grid down situation, that part of North America is going to become uninhabitable. Now, you think this virus is dangerous? You've got a bunch of things going on. And, you know, look, children, over here. The kids are, ISIS is beheading. Oh, children, look, over there. And you are being herded down a path of no return. It's like that cartoon where you have a choice, taking the right door or the left door. The thing is, they herd you through the same door. That's what I have to say at this moment. Treatment, you know, right now, what you can do, well, I'll let you do that one, Vinny, but basically, I have colloidal silver from Helen Downs, my social media, over in Brisbane. He sent that to me last year. That will be one of the few things that actually will help you with colds and other kinds of creepy that you may or not have concern. Just because you have symptoms of flu-like, do not just presume it's this, because it isn't. And right now, I will send you the third link is actually the one of the government. I'll send you those now, and you can post those on your site. What's happened to your site? How come I can't get up on it? What's going on?
I took it down. We had a bunch of faggots who attacked us, and I took it down. That's my new word for people who are mean. People who are me first. People who like to foist their opinions and preferences on others. So, yeah, my family was attacked. We were threatened. One of these perverts decided that he was going to threaten me and tell me that he demanded that I sell the farm and give reparations to all the people whom I hurt. I want to meet that guy, and I want to introduce him to the to the business end of Lucille. People are really...
I have a couple of bikers that for just a nickel bag will take care of that for you. Mm-hmm. Actually, I do. Literally, sir, and whoever's listening, I do have friends that don't appreciate trolls and actually like to go right straight to their face with it. Police and all.
I can almost guarantee you today that after we talk about the coronavirus, we're going to get some thumbs down on the internet. People saying, see, we took down the comments. They used to bash my mother, my father, our children, Mrs. Finelli, me, every day. And I was sick of it. And I thought, you know what? I could just go away, forget the whole thing. I mean, what do I need this for? What do I need to volunteer 2 hours a day, 5 days a week plus?
You haven't done anything but try to empower people, Vincent.
Well,
that means the guy is probably being paid.
Right. And he should be ashamed of himself. I mean, his mother...
It isn't even that. He's probably being paid.
Yeah,
he's not his mother. There's sickos out there, but that's not probably what it is. He will appear to look like he's a sicko, but he's probably being paid.
Yeah. Well, his mother would be ashamed of him if she knew what he was doing for a living. So anyway, there are people who just bash, and it's not just me, and it's not just you. I mean, they bash you too. They bash Norm Shealy. They bash Rich Sheben. They bash Gwyneth. They bash all of us. And it's like a free for all. You give someone.
They're seeking attention. It's okay.
Yeah, but
I don't mind that part.
And they send me emails, and I block them because I don't want to see them. They tell me what I should talk about, what we should talk about, what we should do, what we're not doing right. There's so many opinions. So here's the thing. Right now there's 750,000 podcasts. So all you guys who think you know everything and think that you want to be heard, go start your own podcast. It's not going to cost you anything. Go start it and work on it, and develop a following. And I'm sure you'll do really, really well. These guys do so well. They have maybe 2 TWO subscribers on YouTube. That's how well they're doing. 2. Maybe 1, maybe none. Literally, I'm not exaggerating. These guys are nobodies. Absolutely nobodies. And nobody wants to hear them. And for a while, our class would retaliate against these faggots and beat them up and say, what's the matter with you? How about some substantiation? If you want to make these claims, you want to say that Finelli's so bad and Rick's so bad, back it up. And they can't. I've even invited these faggots on the air, and they won't come on the air. We'll be right back. I have I've been biting my tongue about commercials. And going after a commercial is the kiss of death on radio. And frankly, if this is our last day, that's okay with me. I really don't care. Because if it is, I'll have more time to spend on the farm to try to keep it afloat. But this commercial just frosted me because it's a lie. And Rick and I have been talking about doublespeak, newspeak, and you just heard it. Smokey Colbert, after 75 years, only you can prevent wildfires. That's a lie. That's not true. That's not the way it was. When it first came out, I was a child. It was Smokey the Bear, not Smokey Colbert, not Smokey Bear, Smokey the Bear.
A smoking bear, smoking pot. or whatever.
And,
only you
now,
can prevent the forest fires.
That's exactly right. It was only you can prevent forest fires. And now they're telling us only you can prevent wildfires. They changed it. I challenge those guys. Let's have it out. Let's have a shootout right here on the air. It's not Smokey Colbert after 75 years. These guys are lying.
A rocket under you today. I'll tell you, man. You're all locked and loaded.
That's exactly right. And so I've been thinking about this, Rick. So these perverts who have been attacking us, after 5 years of the expo and the meetups and all that, we never charged anybody who wanted to come to the expo for free. Can I have a ticket? Sure. Can I have 2? Sure. Can I have 7? Sure. We paid for anybody who wanted to come. No questions asked until we couldn't afford to pay their way to come to the expo anymore. And then at the meetup, they decided to throw Norm Shealy overboard and me. And that means when they threw me overboard, they threw you overboard.
Well, I remember when the police showed up for my workshop that evening.
Yeah.
Do you remember that?
Yeah.
And the whole thing came in, thought I was, May, I'm just a nerd.
Well, not only did
call it out, you can't. Yeah, okay, go ahead. I'm sorry.
That's what I'm doing. I'm calling them out. And when they showed up for you, they showed up with the fire trucks and the sirens and the lights and the horns, and they scared. Well, and our guests left. We had people that came from Georgia that left in a panic, doctors, because they were terrified of what the cops were doing in the fire department. They thought there was going to be a Waco right there or a Ruby Ridge right there.
What
in Lebanon, Missouri.
Is, young kids that are not very trained. I was in a car accident, and in the newspapers it said that there was yelling and screaming. And I don't know who that was. There were no witnesses, and neither of us were upset other than the guy's car was totaled when he hit my rear bumper. And the way people are driving today is abominable. And this virus is another distraction from what's important and to focus on. And all of us know that there's no way you're going to get any kind of flu or virus if your body's healthy. And the only way you keep your body healthy is if you're active and you have the correct diet. And here's the other bad news. Everybody's different. It isn't one size fits all, but some people can eat more sugar than other people. They metabolize it different because they have different flora in their gut. And if you want to change your gut, there's ways to do that with kimchi and, fermentation. There's all kinds of possible directions one can go to stay healthy. And really, medicine and inoculation is not going to work. What works is keeping your body healthy, because medicine and dentistry are in the dark ages. And really, the thing that cures your body is your body. And if it isn't healthy and doesn't have the right tools or minerals or whatever, it can't cope. And that's where allotropic medicine is failing. To actually go after cancer using radiation, which one's going to kill you first? Why would they go in that direction? Why? When I remember when I was 4 years old, I went to China, and I had to go through 6 days of plague shots. And back then, they gave you black plague and yellow.
We're going into a break. Hold that thought. Dr. Richard Alan Miller's with us. RichardAlanMiller.com. Richard, A-L-A-N Miller.com. Rick, you were talking about 6 days of plague shots before your adventure to China. Did you want to continue?
Yeah, what happened was it has traumatized me against needles. But the third day I was watching full-grown sailors, because I was in a line of a bunch of Navy going to China. Mom was into a China theater. I grew up in the Philippines, where they left me in Buddhist missionary schools until I was 9. And I learned how to fight on the streets of the Philippines because I was Caucasian. However, I also learned how to play chess. And I'm going to say something about all of this. The way they do inoculation and plague shots and things like that today is quite different. It used to be, in order to prevent measles, you exposed your child to measles at an early age where his immune system was different, and you retrained the immune system to take care of itself by exposing people to measles. And it was harder on older people. That is essentially the same thing for almost everything. And so getting colds and flus is a natural function. Basically, the pineal gland was a light-sensitive organ that adjusted and readjusted the body to seasonal changes predicated on what latitude that you are at. That has atrophied with the use of artificial lighting to the point where now the pineal gland is essentially useless in that specific category. It does other things, but it essentially calcifies. There's ways to uncalcify it using visualization exercises and other things of that nature, because the chill that runs up and down your body, that chill is dimethyltryptamine. And it turns out, in its release, it sends out a signal on the central nervous system going up and down in the visible light region. And if you adjust, this is Robert O. Becker, a Nobel Prize winner, and myself in a published paper from the University of Washington. If you adjust your spinal column in such a manner that that light beam going up or down, Sri Aurobindo or Gopai Krishna, going up or down, you can uncalcify the pineal gland using your own visualizations and mind's eye. And basically, that's what's happening now with microdosing with mushrooms. Your mushroom is a toxin, but it causes the brain to produce a look-alike neurotransmitter. And that neurotransmitter is a resonant cavity oscillator that dialogues with subtle bodies outside the physical body. What you would call chi is microtubules with structured water in it, and leaves the body at the moment of death. In terms of everybody, there is a 5-gram weight loss in the body. And once you can visualize these energies, what's basically happening is you're taking allotropic medicine from 10%, your belief system, from 10% on what's happening to your body, and you're moving it up to 60% because of these subtle bodies where the laws of physics change. And when I say this, none of you have to get sick if you don't want to. It's because the relationship you have to yourself and the relationship you have to your environment. And once you get that, what age do you want to be? What color do you want to live? How healthy? Everybody is different. It's different blood types. You can categorize it down any way you'd like. The bottom line is each of us is uniquely different in the way we respond to things because of our previous history of wounds. And once you get that part, now the wound is what makes you uniquely different between Vincent Minnelli and Richard Miller. And now I can do things Vinny can't, and Vinny can do things I can't because of these gifts from God. And once you can metabolize that as a belief system, watch where everything goes next. And this media thing that's going on is trying to herd the uneducated. And worse, that's where they're going. They're going after our children, not educating them like they should. I remember when I was in second grade, I'm 76, when I was in second grade, they required Latin. Sum est est, sum est estisant. And when I say that, what's happening to our educational system? And that's where health begins. Our children are our single most important natural resource, and we are failing seriously in that category alone. Once you do that, the New World Order, all of these outside influences trying to take control of the masses, the smaller groups trying to control larger groups with fear and media mean nothing.
You're talking about Latin. So here's 2 words in Latin. Caveat emptor. It's Latin for let the buyer beware. And you need to know that. Let the buyer beware. And that's because there's so many liars, thieves, cheats out there who are willing to do whatever it takes
like we've covered in other things where they'll say one thing and it makes you believe something new and improved. How can something be new and improved? It's having to do with similes, automatopoeias, and the idea of mixing metaphors.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're talking about the exposure to measles, and that was a common thing when I was growing up. Somebody had measles, the mothers in the neighborhood, the mothers in the village would say, "Oh yeah, Johnny's got measles," and so the other mothers would bring their children over so they'd all get measles, and then you'd be done with it. And that's what was done. Literally, that's what was done. And you were talking about the pineal gland being light sensitive. So when we were growing up, Rick, it was go outside and play, get some sunshine, go get some sunshine, go get some vitamin D. Now it's don't bother me. Don't bother me. Go over there and watch TV or play video games. Leave me alone. That's what the parents are doing now. So the parents aren't raising their children.
Kids staring at screens today as a serious problem with their visual and auditory senses.
Mm-hmm. And again, class, it is not Smokey Colbert after 75 years. They've changed it. It is, and it's not only you can prevent wildfires. That's not what it was. It was originally, look it up.
Yeah.
Yes, it was Smokey the Bear. And there was can prevent forest fires. That's what it was. That's what it was. We all know that because it was ingrained in our minds. Don't throw those cigarettes out. Don't leave campfires.
What is that called? A mandala effect, where there's alternate timelines. No, there's not alternative timelines. There is primary timelines with secondary options.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
That's a different way of looking at the same phenomena, where everything happens for a reason. And everything leads to something better. That's the Beatles.
There was a commercial, an advertisement, Smokey the Bear, only you can prevent wild forest fires. And then years later, actually decades later, the same group said, it's not Smokey the Bear, it's Smokey Bear. You wouldn't say Easter the Bunny, you would say Easter Bunny. So obviously it's not Smokey the Bear. It's Smokey Bear. And then they changed this.
Luke, I am your father. Or who cares? Because that's what's happening between Gen X, millennials, and baby boomers.
Well, Hitler said, just, give me a generation. And I forget the exact quote, but basically, give me your children and we'll fix this. We'll go and change everything.
How about Carter Brzezinski when he says it's easier to kill 20 million people than it is to control?
Well, what we're trying to do, we're trying to teach our class how to think. So I really believe this coronavirus is absolutely, positively real. And let me give you some numbers. So the numbers that I have, let me turn the page. So on Monday, we reported that there were about 1,900 plus infected, between 1,900 and 2,000 people infected. That was Monday morning with Norm Shealy. Tuesday, the number reached 4,500. I'm giving you round numbers, class. Wednesday morning, 5,000. Wednesday evening, same day, yesterday, 6,000 infected. So is this real? Are these numbers being made up? Are these actors, thousands of actors? How about this cruise ship? There are 6,000 passengers right now on a cruise ship in Italy, about 50 miles off the coast of Rome. 1,000 crew members. So now we have 6,000 plus 1,000. That's 7,000 people. And the cruise ship is called Costa Smeralda, Smeralda. It's an Italian ship. It is absolutely magnificent. It looks like they really washed this up, and I mean, this thing shines. It is magnificent from any perspective. Well, this cruise ship is quarantined right now off the coast of Rome. Why? Because one Chinese woman, 54 years old, is thought to have reported a fever and respiratory problems.
Which is normal, by the way.
Last night. So now she and her husband have been placed in separate isolation rooms on the cruise ship while they're being tested, and nobody goes anywhere. All y'all, you're stuck here. Now, I got to ask you, have you lost your mind if you've gone on a cruise ship? Would you really do that? Would you really get on a ship that are you going to jump off? How are you, if you want to get off, can you get off? Why would anyone subject themselves to being held hostage and pay for it on a ship that you can't get off of unless they let you off? Why would you do that? Why? Same thing with an airplane. Why would you do that? Why would you get on a ship when you have no idea who's been there before? You have no idea what's gone on in that room. You have no idea who's cooking the food or where the food came from. Why would you do that? It makes no sense to me. None. And that's the me first.
You never thought about the shopping cart that you would pick up and just go through the store and take things off the shelves, whereas today they have sanitation cleaners and so on. I think that's because when they used to do photo shoots at Walmart and all the different kinds of personalities that would go through there and how they would dress. I don't know, man. There is a reason why we have farmers markets. You don't know where your food's coming from because a just-in-time delivery could mean it came from China or Mexico or Mars.
Tell you what, if you want to get sick, I'll tell you how to do it. When we come back, I'll tell you how to get sick. I was going to talk about this tomorrow. So tomorrow, Lark in Texas, and I are going to be talking about communitarianism. But then the next hour, I'm going to be talking about my book and tips. I'll tell you about how to get sick when we come back. So I'm going to tell you how to get sick. So several months ago, I was in the shop and I was working on an air conditioning system. And when you work on an air conditioning system, if you're looking for a leak, a freon leak or refrigerant leak, what you can do is you can add dye. And the dye shows up really, really well under ultraviolet light. And I had a fluorescent ultraviolet light, like a shop or a work lamp with a power cord on it with about a 13-watt ultraviolet bulb. And you kind of shine that around the engine. You can find where the dye leak is. Well, that was okay, but it was just too big of a flood area coming out of this fluorescent bulb. So I decided to buy a pen light. It's about $10 on eBay. So I bought an ultraviolet pen light, and the light that comes out of it is only ultraviolet. It's not white light plus ultraviolet plus LED. It's just ultraviolet. And this thing will fit in your pocket. It's about the size of a pen. Literally, it's a pen light that uses AAA cells. And I started experimenting, looking around with what else will this thing show up besides dye. Let me tell you what. If you take that into like a motel bathroom, it'll light up body fluids. Shine it on the rug in a motel room, body fluids. If you want to get sick, get yourself a UV flashlight and just go look around. You won't believe it. You won't believe you'll see where people have been, and it's just going to get you sick. So if you want to get sick, that's what you do. But actually, you probably ought to get one anyway, so you can see where body fluids are. Rich Sheepman in Montana, as they say on Amazon. Welcome.
Oh, thank you, Vince. Hey, Rick. How you doing, buddy?
I haven't heard from you in a while.
Yeah, how you been?
I'm going bald. Unnatural causes.
Well, that's okay. As long as you're staying rowdy and having fun, that's all that matters.
I pulled all my hair out.
Okay. Well, you know what? You got to stick with what works.
Yeah.
Well, let me give you a compliment, Rick. I want to respond kind of in a paraphrase situation to what you said regarding schools, attacking the children, dumbing them down, and very profound, intelligent, well thought out comment about wounds and different perspective and unique skills. I never really put it in that perspective, and I thought that was very well said. But we have so much hypocrisy and double standards. And if you look at the significant numbers of the elite, the Democrats who oppose, for example, school choice, and I'm talking in the solution idea category now, who oppose school choice and vouchers for poorer children to go to private schools, they basically keep the people, the children, the kids, dumbed down by keeping them in public schools with no accountability for political and social indoctrination purposes, while they send their own kids to private schools, and that's why we need practice what you preach laws. In fact, Elizabeth Warren has been caught saying that her kids have been going entirely to public schools, and that's not the case. They've been to private schools. So if we had these private what you preach laws, we wouldn't have all this hypocrisy and double standards because we'd have more accountability. So my specific solution for America is to get every town, get your kids, get them out of public schools, have public meetings, rotate reputable citizens who has a minimum of 15 years of successful private sector experience to teach real-life practical experience in lieu of scripted theory. And if the people got pissed enough, I mean, public schools, the taxpayers are paying for clowns, for drag queen story hours, to teach their little children how to give BJs, including little 6-year-old boys. This is all documented stuff. Teaching little kids to literally choose their identity of gender as early as nursery school. So I think the parents are getting fed up with this crap. We need town hall meetings. We need public forums. We need citizen review boards. And we absolutely have to do this idea to save America because, like you said, Rick, our children is our number one natural resource. If they keep getting dumbed down and sexualized before they're adults, there's no chance of freedom, liberty, sovereignty.
Have you noticed that all the really good Netflix shows are actually, stressing sexuality in terms of, like, what is that new one that's out, October something or other, where it's about demons and monsters and the two girls, the boy and the girl that are twins. He's gay. And it's okay, which is, I don't have a problem with the way they're doing it. Why is it so prevalent in the movies, whereas in the literal school systems, it isn't that they're afraid to come out and be a closet gay. It isn't that there's that much gender bending. It's quite true that there's individuals that are uncertain because of androgyny, which is quite different than sexuality. And really, all of us are different.
Hold that thought. We'll be right back. Hour number 2 of USA Prepares. Dr. Richard Alan Miller's with us. RichardAlanMiller.com. Richard, A-L-A-N, Miller.com. Rich Sheehan's with us live in Montana as well. I'm Vincent Finelli. And I just want to say, when they talk about sexuality and it's okay and coming out of the closet, it's not okay with me. It is absolutely not okay with me. Put me down as a certified homophobe. I don't like homos. I really don't. They carry disease.
Last night
they carry disease. They carry.
Hey, Rick, if you don't mind, what I'm going to do, I just want to mention one quick article because I called to comment on your well-spoken, well-said, profound statement, and I just want to put the exclamation point on my idea and solution about public schools. I have an article right here. Public New York City school teaches kids that they can pick their own agenda. PS 58 Carroll School in Brooklyn announces a new curriculum for 3- and 4-year-olds to basically choose their gender. I mean, this should be, after reading this, why would any parent want to keep their kids in school? And they do it under the politically correct guise of reducing racism and discrimination. Basically, it's to sexualize children. Now, one thing, I think children should be protected. And if, in my opinion, and Vince and I disagree on this a bit, if it's adult mutual consensual sex, the Fourth Amendment says we can't break down doors and stop people from doing what they're going to do. I agree what Vince says regarding morals. I agree what he says regarding diseases. I agree with, the common sense logic behind his position. However, because of things like estrogen mimickers in all of our foods and waters and plastics and all the pesticides, turning, 90% of our soy has estrogen in it. So I think there's a lot of, between the chemicals, especially bombarded in our water, I think there's a lot of answers that need to be discussed and mentioned. And I think it's just like Aaron Hernandez, who was the New England Patriot tight end who went to jail, who went to prison for murdering somebody, and it was disclosed that he turned out to be a homosexual, and also disclosed that he was raped at the age of 6 years old.
I have a very important point here.
Let me just finish, and I'm going to let you go. I just think that a lot of background needs to be done on why certain people do behaviors. Now, you mentioned that earlier, Rick, regarding being wounded.
Yeah.
Regarding being wounded. Now, if this little kid is being raped at 6 years old, I don't think he has much of a chance to have a normal life. So I'm going to leave it there, gentlemen. I'm not going to take any more of your airtime, Rick. I just want to say congratulations and on what you said, and you guys have a good rest of the show. Okay?
Here's what I need to say now. This is really important. The Gen X generation is different than mine or the millennials, and they have a movement now where they're more interested in witchcraft and the occult than they are with religion. And one of the things that I started to say last night to this Gen X was, and he resonated, it hit him dead on, was that often love comes and goes, and friendships are the highest form of love there is. If you care for somebody, they become your friend, you can love them, and the marriage comes, and sometimes the marriage fails. Why? Because you are trying to find a physical representation of your inner feminine self. This is called androgyny. If you want to read a book on androgyny, June Singer, who's a Jungian psychotherapist, has written an exceptional one. And why we change as we evolve and go through life changes, we find our inner and outer selves in belief systems and values change. And that's quite normal. And what is good for one person is not for another. And the fence over there is not necessarily brown because you can't see the other side. That is the limitation of what makes us human. And we have I have an inner feminine aspect where I seek the kind of woman that I would date and be friends with and then fall in love with is one that, would most represent my inner feminine self. And that's changing. And as it changes, so does my love for this person over that. Whereas because I liked and cared for them in the early part, that's the friendship part. And so there's a distinction in sexualness that has to do with trying to find one of the two paths that go to God in the tree of life. It's the hermit and the lovers. And one does it internally, and one does it externally. And that's the two ways to God. And we are actually in a sense, metaphorically, doing both. And what we're trying to do is find someone, a mate, that best represents our inner masculine or feminine self. If you're a male, you have a feminine inner self that it would be the choice of mates. Now, the one I'm currently engaged with has qualities I aspire toward. And it's not about male or female anymore. It's about this person has qualities in softness and caring and da-da-da that I aspire toward. I'm not there yet. And it best represents my inner drive with my external behavior. And the two are the same once you get to a certain level of realization with self. And self, in this case, is capitalized. The realization of net or new is only halfway to God realization.
Well, Rick, I'm gonna end my participation here with a tongue-in-cheek comment regarding my feminine self. Are you ready? Are you ready, Rick?
No, but go ahead. I'm locked and I'm going to load.
Okay, this is a tongue-in-cheek comment, and I've heard this from millions of men. Okay, and I'm not saying this to be repetitive or redundant.
Be careful how you say. Be careful how you say this, Rich.
I know.
I think I know what's coming.
If I were a woman, I would be a lesbian. And on that note, I'm going to let you guys ponder that and have a great day and enjoy the rest of your show, guys. Thanks for letting me chime in.
Thanks, Rich Sheban.
Yeah, I really care for Rich and living off the grid.
I'll tell you what he means. The reason he said that is if he were a woman, he wouldn't want to be hanging around with some hairy guy. That's what
Well, we're pretty messy and we're not clean, and I aspire toward the values of this person that I'm currently dating. And it doesn't mean we don't live together. We have our separate universes because I think mostly of her parents and the fact that we're not married. I think that's part of it in terms of her values of respect for her parents. Doesn't mean she does respects that. And the thing that's a problem is we're all wounded. And with that said, we're trying to find a balance in things, and that's why we're in this weird matrix, if you will, right now. And by the way, at the moment of death, when you have that 5-gram weight loss, did you know that 5 grams of structured water is enough memory to hold more than 100,000 lifetimes of memory? Time isn't real. Consciousness is not real. Basically, there are dream states like lucid dreaming that have more content to reality than consciousness does. Consciousness is biased by belief systems and values. And both of those things are arbitrary and should be changed, like a sweater might be taken off and in the heat of summer. It does not mean you get rid of the sweater, like Christianity. And so one of the things I train Navy SEALs in to be a Superman or super person is the idea that if you were going to go to Iraq, you would put your belief systems in Christianity in a drawer to save it for an appropriate time, because if you went over there as a Christian, you'd get your team killed. Now, it's a tool, because if you had been born in Iraq, you would not be a Christian. Does that mean that everybody born in Iraq is going to hell? I don't think so, because guess what? Hell and heaven are Christian concepts of absolutes, and Eastern tradition teaches yin within the yang, or preference. And when my daughter, when I was raising her, used to say, "Daddy, I love this and I hate that," I would quietly remind her I could find something she hated even more. And she got that concept to the point where, we have in our Western society dealing with absolutes. That means we have a devil. Does that mean that God's in conflict with something? I don't think so. I think that God is everything, and it's man's limitation that cannot see the other side of the fence to know what color it is. And so with that said, these concepts of absolutes of, this and this is good and this is evil, I think the yin is within the yang, and there needs to be an integration of values and realizing that these values, that's what church is really about. It's about fellowship and trying to find people with a similar set of values to help you towards your own realization of those values. But those values are tools in a toolbox and can be used and put down when they're not appropriate. And that is one of the problems with Christianity, for example, is that Christianity's primary tenet is not to make judgment on another. And yet, that is the very problem of Christianity and why so many people have died in the name of the Lord. In fact, all of our wars are based on these concepts of values and religion. And I have, in my studies, I've found that matriarchal societies where the women rule, there have never been wars. Newsflash. So it's time for all of us to take care of our own ship before we start worrying about someone else's. And that includes belief systems and what thoughts you choose to entertain. You have a responsibility for the thoughts you choose to entertain. And once you get that, that's where Christianity and the teachings of Christ actually lie. Christ, before he was the Christ, he was a seeker that went to India and sought other religions and their truths. 20 years.
We'll be right back with Dr. Richard Alan Miller. I've got a few comments on what you just said, Rick. Dr. Richard Alan Miller's with us. Rick, I've got 3 comments. We're talking about Christians and how they're not supposed to judge other beliefs. Well, praise the Lord.
Not other beliefs, other people. You can I think there are as many different religions as there are human beings. And what you've done is classify groups of belief systems as churches, and you go for fellowship to try to reinforce those values. Like, I believe you should be this way and that way. There's nothing wrong with that. And there's nothing wrong with pursuing that in a church where a group of people believe the same thing. But I think in freedom of religion is that you have the choice to go anywhere you want.
Well, so here's what happened. So the meetup group was almost entirely comprised of Christians. There are a few Jews there, and but other than a few Jews, there were mostly Christians, if not completely Christians, other than the few Jews. Well, those guys watched Norm Shealy talk about spiritual healing, and he proved to them with scientific measurement equipment, medical measuring equipment, that spiritual healing absolutely is a fact. It actually has an effect.
Yeah.
Well, okay, so praise the Lord, these Christians voted to boot Norm Shealy out. So what I'm saying is there are Christians, and then there are alleged Christians. So they booted him out because he talked about spiritual healing and proved it right in front of them, with them as the volunteers. So it wasn't like some shill or some pre-arranged set of circumstances that would allude to spiritual.
They were Christians. It was individuals practicing their religion. And that's why we're all wounded, because none of us have it right, and none of us do it right. It's a process. You never really get to, Simon says you can go halfway to the door. You can get very close to the door, but you've missed the whole concept of the journey.
Yeah, because you get halfway there, and then you have to get halfway there, and then you have to get halfway there, and you can mathematically prove you can never get to the door.
But because it isn't about the door. It isn't about, God. It's about how you are, with your limitations and wounds, capable of what you can do. Dolphin, for example, has just recently, when I did the studies with John Lilly, I said that their language was a form of clicks and whistles, was a form of Clifford algebra, dimensional math. However, today, we have discovered that dolphins aren't having a language. They're sending images, three-dimensional images with their clicks and whistles. That means their language is way beyond Hebrew. Now, there is a cetacean or mammal that's more evolved language-wise than man is, and guess what? Orca, who has a cerebral cortex twice the size of man, firing 60% of it, goes after dolphin as food. It's Bob Dylan. Everybody's got to serve somebody. It's about food chain and your place in the scheme of things. And man is not the superior part of everything. He is limited in what he can do and what he can conceive. And I would say that Orca is a god, not our god necessarily, but certainly capable of doing and going places man can't even comprehend. The dolphin, lower on the food chain, their language is three-dimensional. They're sending images. And that was just confirmed 3 weeks ago. Now, what's going on here? And why do we think we're so superior to everything? And when we talk about coronavirus and small groups of individuals trying to control the masses and education, the whole thing is about self-awareness. And that's where your real healing occurs. It's not a pandemic. You're going to have a cold. Of course you're going to have sniffles. Are you going to get the coronavirus? I don't think so. But they might try to use it like a weapon, like they are the nuclear power plants on the New Madrid fault line, because if you don't turn those things off, you're going to talk about a problem way beyond coronavirus.
Okay. We'll be right back with Dr. Richard Alan Miller. So, class, I'm going to let you listen to the sound. Listen very carefully. I don't know if you'll be able to hear this, but here it goes. That is the sound of turning on and off a pen light that is ultraviolet. It measures 5.5 inches long and is a 1/2 inch in diameter. You keep it in your shirt pocket. So when you talk about Bob Dylan and everybody has to serve somebody, Rick, that makes me think about if I went to a restaurant, I would want to have this ultraviolet pen light in my pocket, and I want to shine it on the plate and see where all these fingerprints are that are all over my plate.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. And I'm serious. So, class, I just bought 3 of them during the break, and I paid about $4 a piece. Got some white light and ultraviolet light. So it does 2. One end is ultraviolet, the other is white. And I bought one for every member of the family to carry with him or her. Well, I bought 4 of them. So everybody gets one. And take it. It's to be taken with them, and you can buy it at eBay. Shipped for about $4. Okay. Next thing is there are plenty of atheists, and people will say they're atheists, and they'll probably maintain that until the shelling starts. Once the shooting starts, I don't think there are any atheists. And the next thing I'd like to say is, at the age of 6 years old, I asked our daughter, I said, so this is about homos. What do you think about Michael Jackson? And her quote was, I remember this vividly. What do you think about Michael Jackson? Quote, I don't like the way she dresses, end quote. So if you look at our behavior, we are absolutely falling down. Absolutely. And I have a real tough time accepting homosexuality as normal, as it's okay. It's not okay. And if you think it's okay, just get yourself invited to a homosexual wedding. Do that. Spend the afternoon at a homosexual wedding and see how much you think it's normal. Robert in Kansas, welcome.
Hey, Vincent, thanks for taking my call. I believe you probably got 12 hours of sleep last night because you are lit up, buddy.
I am lit up.
These faggots are out of control, and I'm glad that we still have some strong men out there that know the difference between right and wrong. It's really good to hear, and I thank you for that.
Well, Robert, you know, I'm glad you said that because this is probably the last time you'll be able to thank those of us who are strong men, because we're all going to get thrown off the air after today, because you're not allowed to say these things. You're not allowed to criticize commercials. And using the word faggot, I think that's considered wrong. It's okay to be a homo. It's okay to be a faggot. It's okay to flaunt deviant behavior, but it's not okay to talk about it.
Well, I wanted to address Rich Sheben, just so he knows my thoughts on it. The religion of the controllers is hurting children. That is their religion in a phrase, is to hurt kids. And so the reason they gave women rights is so they would have access to the kids. They gave women rights, so it removes the rights from men, and then they can come in and do what they're doing to our children. So that really is why they gave them rights, to hurt the kids.
Well, I gave Mrs. Finelle some training classes on how to shoot her .357 Magnum. That's the that is her hammer of choice, literally. A Smith & Wesson double action .357 Magnum.
Yeah, with an interchangeable barrel, so you can do a 9mm.
No, 30 special, but it's the same. It's the same
yeah,
cylinder.
I have one that's across. I can do either one if I want. Predicated on whether I need to pierce some armor.
Yeah, well, that's the .357 was designed to break a block, an engine block. That's why it was upped from a 30A special. So yeah, and you can get Full Metal Jacket. You can get some pretty serious ammunition.
You can do that with a cross-hilt broadsword with the edge that I put on my sword. I can actually go through an engine block with my cross-hilt broadsword. I made it with chrome steel. Had it cast in the hour of Mercury, just straight out of the Greater Keys of Solomon. And imagine me with that sword.
Well, I am dressed right here in the studio with a hard chromed 1911. And so, Robert, I appreciate what you said. There are very few of us who are willing to stand up against immorality. There are very few of us who are willing to stand up for the family.
Of the coin, it is about appropriateness. And everybody's got a different way they make love. And it's okay. I don't choose to make judgment on the way someone else wants to do something. What I want to do is have the right to do it the way I want.
Well, okay. If you're talking about it's okay to be queer, no, it's not okay.
No, I didn't say
not
queer.
To me.
I didn't say queer.
You said make love.
Yeah.
You said make love, and we talked about a guy who was known as a tight end, and I'm wondering, is that a double entendre?
Well, Vincent, I mean, one man for a man to lay with another man, the way he lay with a woman. I don't mean to sound Christian or anything, but that is wrong. I mean, you're not supposed to have sex with animals either, or children, or all. I mean, it doesn't just stop there. I know that me personally, there was a time in my life where I was more promiscuous with the women, right? And I'm not proud of that now. Back then, I thought I was, being a man and doing the right thing.
You evolved. You found yourself.
Well, you just realized that you're not supposed to do that. You're supposed to marry a woman and love her and have a family. That's what you're supposed to do. And
but my marriage doesn't have anything to do with the state of Oregon.
Yeah, that's right.
Dr. Miller, I want to ask you something, Dr. Miller. I was doing some research. Have you heard about, Hitler and the Nazis when they burned the books? Do you know what that was about?
Yes, I do. And it's like that is what is happening today in a metaphor. And
Dr. Miller,
we need to be aware of the fact that they're trying to restrict certain levels of education and promote others. And why?
Dr. Miller, The books that they burned, though, were the ones that said men can transition to women.
No, they weren't. They had to do with a lot of different things. And Nazism, fascism, and capitalism do not work. Neither does communism. What is the correct form of government? Maritime law? You say, captain and commander of my own ship. I run my ship tight, and I try to run a trim sail. And I don't want, however, and this is really important, it will be your neighbor that saves your life. Remember that.
When you mentioned Adolf Hitler, Ernst Röhm was the head of the SA, and he was a homo, and Hitler despised homos.
You can go downhill from there. Hitler.
Well, let's just talk about Ernst Röhm for a second. So Ernst Röhm was a homo, and he liked men, and Hitler found out about it and summarily had him murdered because he was a homo. So if you want to know what Adolf Hitler thought about homos, that's it.
See, people are getting confused again, like the color of the fence, when they confuse sexuality with androgyny. And androgyny is who you are. You have a feminine element inside that's soft, and you have the hard masculine external. And it's really important to remember that in matriarchal societies, they had no war.
They're
always
all dead, Dr.
remember that, because this concept of expansion rather than domestication of a given territory, your space, your allowed space, and religions, all of them are limited because of belief systems, and the belief system is what allows certain aspects of reality to avail or not. And to have homosexuality is not what I'm talking about. I am talking about something quite different. One of the reasons all of you like me is because of the softness of my physics. It's the feminine part of myself that comes through my masculine. And when I try to integrate that into who I am as a human being, that's where the respect comes from, because it has to do with the evolution of consciousness and trying to go to someplace even more than where I am right now. That's called a seeker, and that's what I am. I've gone to Eastern schools. I had a teacher, Sharan Singh. I'm a satsangi. I meditate. I've trained my mind from the 70s. I've been trying to train my mind. I'm not there, and I'm not perfect, and yes, I have homophobias and other kinds of problems as well. However, I do not judge another. I only will judge myself.
Yeah. I'm going to use my black light to look for homosexuals.
Yeah, you better.
Robert in Kansas.
On where you're going to find everything. Imagine what's in your mouth right now compared to what's on your penis. And when I say that,
let's not degrade. Let's not degrade.
Your mouth has got all kinds of creepy. And you know what?
Yeah.
That isn't bad or good. In fact, that's part of who you are.
Robert in Kansas, I've got a question.
You're a question for you. Yeah, that's the thing that's a really problem. When I go to Walmart, I have no idea what I'm touching. That's probably where your blacklight is probably most available. Not presuming that dirty, but you have no idea where that other person's hand's been.
I'm going to report on that. I'm going to take this blacklight, as when I wear latex gloves into the supermarket.
And tell me what you
and I'll let you know
when you go to Safeway and Walmart and your auto mechanic that has worked on your vehicle, etc. Just start that process, and it will be appalling what you discover.
Yeah, I'm going to go out in the backyard at night, and I'm going to look and see where TJ has marked his territory, and I'm going to teach him that in case he's marked some territory that he shouldn't, I'm going to tell him not to. Robert in Kansas, I have a question for you. I'm looking at a graph right now, and this is a graph of the progression of the coronavirus. There are 12 days that we've been tracking the coronavirus, and it looks as if you just continue that line in the same direction, and it's a 45-degree angle. Okay, if you look at this line, it's a if you look at this line, it is on target to be at the infectious rate of 100,000 in a week. That'd be, roughly. What do you think about that? Do you think that's true? Do you think this coronavirus is serious, or do you think it's a false flag? Robert.
It could be an Ebola SARS type false flag, or it could be a weaponized.
That's more likely. Yep.
Okay. All right, Robert. Do you want to hang on?
I'll hang on. Thanks, Vince.
All right, we'll be right back. I probably shouldn't say this, but I was listening to some commercials, and I can just imagine. Being at the restaurant with this, if I were single and this gal's across the table, and she says, "You chewing gum?" No. I'm getting ready. So I went to this website, and you can chew this stuff. And now they have 4 different types of plans. You can be active. Now that would be sex every 5 days. You'd be considered active. Now if you're busy, that would be every 3 days. That's the busy club. Now if you're popular, that's every 2 days. Now if you're a professional, it's more than once a day. And they probably should have another category called the Epstein Club, and that would be 3 times a day. I can't believe the commercials we're hearing on the radio. We've got a sexual expert. Really? And then we have chew your way to the bedroom. Unbelievable. And I thought we're trying to become more decent, not less decent. What the heck is happening to America? So I better stop here. Any comments, Robert in Kansas?
I wanted to address Dr. Miller real quick. As he might have noticed, our society has become more and more feminized, and our society is getting better and better and better, right? Is that the case, Dr. Miller? I would, no, it's not. And I want to say about the matriarchies of history. They didn't sow the seed, Dr. Miller. They didn't protect their points of entry. They were run over by the world because they're not men and they don't understand the things of men that we understand. Not that they don't understand.
You totally maybe misunderstood where I'm coming from. I'm not feminine at all in terms of if you were to know me as an individual. I am talking about something that most people do not even think about yet. And that's the part of yourself that you really care for and why you've selected the individual that you're currently dating. When I was young, I dated a lot of very promiscuous women. And guess what happened? I chose to move to a different place because I wasn't coming from that kind of place.
I thought you were saying
something more I was seeking out of life. There's all different kinds of sexuality and homophobia. And what I'm really talking about is the 2 paths to God are the hermit and the lovers. And you might, look up tarot definitions of what those 2 paths actually mean from a Greek high-end society of techniques in terms of mythology. And it's not about homophobia and bisexuality. It has nothing to do with sex. That's what I was trying to imply originally. And people are getting confused in our society today, and the educational processes from what Vincent is talking about in education, where they let a 4-year-old try to determine what sexy is, that's crazy. Kid is
that's when you allow women.
Well, actually, I can't.
Dr. Miller.
Oh,
You allow women to make decisions, you're going to get transgendered kids. That's how it works. This is Rome. This is everything.
You can talk about yourself that way, and the way you choose to look at realities. I choose a different way of looking at what's going on, and it doesn't mean I'm right.
gentlemen,
I
hold on one second.
I don't know. But I do know for myself.
Hold on one second. If we are allowed to choose our sexuality, then why don't we use that as a defense? If we are arrested for a major crime, we should be able to say, hold it, no, I'm a child. I'm really 6.
That's where we're going.
Treat me as I'm 6, because that's what I believe I am. So
that is exactly the problem with what's going on today. And really, it has nothing to do with gender. That's just a
gentlemen, I need to say this before the end of the broadcast.
Like everything else.
I need to say this before the end of the broadcast. AP News. Major companies across the world have responded to the virus, the coronavirus, by suspending some operations in China. Now, of course, Google has. China, Hong Kong, and Taiwan. Starbucks says it plans to close half its stores in China.
Yeah.
Half its stores in China. That's their second largest market. British Airways has halted all flights to China, and American Airlines has suspended Los Angeles flights to and from Shanghai and Beijing. So, is this real, class? I hope you consider that this is real. I hope you take precautions. I suggest that you be careful where you go. And if you get a black light for $4 on eBay shipped and you start shining it on things that in public, don't look at it with your eyes. You can hurt your eyes. But I think you're going to get sick of what you see, and it will change your behavior. Thank you.